Written by Richard Johnson, and this is on SI.com. College football's newest coaches have interesting incentives and clauses in their contract. Now, there's also, clauses for a lot of different things, but one of the clauses in Kenny Dillingham's contract is academic incentives. That's nothing new, but Arizona State's academic grade point average the year before he took over was 2.56. And he starts to get major bonus money if they hit 3.0 or above. He gets $37,500 if a team GPA is at 2.7. $62,500, 2.8, $100,000, 2.9, and $150,000 if the GPA gets above 3.0.
Hey, Arizona State's in the AAU right now. I mean, you can't be running around with a 2.5 GPA and you're at your football team. You're in the AAU, right?
Yeah, and the TV deal hinges on academics.
God, I'm glad everyone's together again. Deion Sanders will earn $1.5 million out of his $5.5 million in total compensation under a clause in his contract called development of the student athlete that is broken down into $500,000 increments. So there's that with Colorado.
And that means grades.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's good that they're, focusing on that side of things because there is, that element of schoolwork that whether people want to believe it or not does exist. And I know there's a whole other argument to be had about, how much does it really sink in or how much does it matter in the end. And, a lot of guys get degrees that they don't even know what they're doing, and they're basically pointless. So I don't know. Maybe let's incentivize actually knowing what you're doing and doing well at academics. I mean, it sounds like probably a good plan considering that the argument against it is that you're going to say like, well, 90% of guys don't. Well, then maybe we should concentrate on the 90% of guys who don't make the NFL and make sure that they're. What studying they are doing or what degree they are getting actually is worthwhile. That'd be a nice step forward for college athletics. But, there is the time commitment and all of that. So I guess the next best thing is to say, hey, make good grades and you can make some money as well. I mean, that seems to be the motivating factor for anything and everything these days. Don't see how it can hurt here.
Here are the actual increments. Support of the football program athletes towards attainment of academic skills and development of academic culture. The welfare and development of football program student athletes, including citizenship, supporting the football program engendered from the University of Colorado Boulder student population, and the development of the football program outreach, culture, reputation on campus. So that kind of is more, I would think, up in the air on what that means. That's also another way for, well, here's another $500,000. But if they have a lot of issues and they have some, if it's not if it's toxic, then he's not going to get these $500,000 increments. But it does, and he also has to wear Nike, even though his personal deal is with Under Armour.
Yeah, well, he used to have a personal deal with Nike back in the day, so maybe that can change around at one point. But it is funny to me knowing Deion is now pushing all these academic things, considering when he was a student athlete, he was the poster boy for not. But, everybody changes and everybody's life goes in different directions. It is also probably more important for Colorado now that they have all these high-profile athletes coming in from the transfer portal and coming in rapidly, because when you have that, a lot of times maybe some of the vetting process is not as deep because you have so much roster turnover. So you've got to take extra steps to make sure that you don't have these problems and that, you incentivize the coaching staff to make sure that you don't have problems on campus, especially considering that, a couple years ago, you could have walked up to somebody on campus and go, I play football for the Colorado team. They go, oh, do you now? Good for you.
Yeah.
I haven't noticed.
Kenny Burns at Kent State, listen to this one. He gets $5,000 if the Golden Flashes beat Akron and earn the Wagon Wheel Trophy, which they have played for 65 years, or played 65 times since 1923, and every year since 1983. Kent State has won 4 straight. So if, in fact, they end up beating Akron, that's a $5,000 bonus for beating their rival.
Wait, every year since when they've won 4 straight?
They've played 65 times, and they have played every year since 1983. Kent State has won 4. consecutive games in the series.
Yeah, I mean, beating your rival or beating, certain teams and getting rewarded for that's nothing really new. I think that's pretty commonplace. And, nice to have, though, an incentive in your contract to say, like, hey, if you, take care of your business against this team or in this rivalry, what have you, that, you're rewarded for it. Lots of bells and whistles like that on these college contracts. So, yeah, that's great for those benefiting from it.
Louisville's Jeff Braum. His contract runs through 2028. Just it came in, of course, to Louisville as they're trying to figure out a way to replace Satterwhite, who's now at Cincinnati. Satterfield. He's now, Braum, of course, now was at Purdue. Automatically, his contract extends by 1 year if the Cardinals win 7 or more games in any season during the agreement. They didn't bring him in to just kind of get the 7 wins or more. Automatically extends by 2 years if they win 10 games or more for a maximum extension through 2030. Both of the win totals, 7 or 10 wins, includes bowl games. So there's that little nugget on Jeff Braum. How about former Baylor coach Matt Rule at Nebraska? He's getting $5.5 million. He has a contract that if he's still the coach in 2030, he would have what will escalate to $12.5 million. There aren't many, but there are enough, I guess, now that are above $10 million. Rule is set to join them on January 1st of 2027. That's only if he doesn't earn an extension from the Big Red in the meantime, if they start to be successful, which they would do that if he actually got to a bowl game this year.
For his sake and for your sake, Smokey, I hope that Matt Rule is still the coach in 2020 because that would be 7 seasons. And I would assume...
He's never been around that long.
2027,
you
mean.
Yeah.
You said 2020. 2020. What, 20?
I said 2030. I thought that was 2030.
If he's 20, you said 2020, but I get what you're saying. Yeah.
I thought it was 2030 that he had to.
Yeah, because he's one of those that comes into a place that struggles, builds them up, gets them to a nice level, and then usually, in the case of Temple to Baylor, Baylor to the NFL, and then that didn't end well. Now he's at Nebraska.
I think, he's a guy who knows, how to build things, as you mentioned, build programs. And, I hope Nebraska fans are patient enough. Lord knows they've waited long enough to get some success going, and hopefully this is the time that actually, gets started and continues. And so for it to continue, that would entail him, not only finding some success pretty early, but then being able to carry that over multiple years. And, if that's the case, then I think that he'd be well rewarded because, of the situation that they've been in, the hunger, the just starving for some success. I don't think you need a clause in that contract. I think if he were to go win some games here pretty early on in the first couple of years, they'd be running to the front door to offer him a brand new contract. But nice to have the clause in there regardless to ensure that, you are going to get yours if, in fact, you do meet certain goals. But, yeah, that's going to be a really interesting situation to watch there in Lincoln with he and Nebraska. I think, we have a lot of admiration for him, a lot of respect for him and that staff. Obviously have a lot of respect and admiration for the Nebraska football program, but you just don't know how it's going to work out in a new Big Ten, or in this new era of NIL and, who has what. And obviously he's got a lot of support there, got all the bells and whistles you could possibly want. The only thing really missing is winning games. So, be patient, Huskers fans, and, if it's like any of his other stops, eventually you're going to see the fruits of that labor.
Yeah, patience is what they've learned to be in the last 15 or 20 years. Now, Alex Gollis, we had Mike Kelly, USF AD, on with us on Monday. He was fantastic about what they're trying to do, building that new stadium and what their hopes are. And he admitted that, they haven't been ready. If USF joins a Power 5 conference and Alex Gollis is the head coach, the school will the school will negotiate a raise for at least $1 million per year of his contract.
Well, good luck, USF, and good luck, Alex Gollis, in achieving that goal. They also just got put in the AAU as well. So.
Yep. And then finally, this one with Trent Dilfer. This is one I have to read this one. Dilfer is contractually required to maintain a reasonably mature and rational attitude and keep emotions in control. Downplay defeats. He is also allowed to appear on Ryan Russillo and also his podcast and also Colin Cowherd's shows. Just kind of a random thing. earlier this week, he
Are
basically
they worried about him?
Yeah.
Are they worried about
Bill
him? Like
Simmons, I guess.
Like, yeah.
I guess he's not going to be on 365 Sports. That's it.
Yeah. Well. Oh well. Hasn't he been on the show before? Or no, he wasn't on there. I guess
We had Dilfer on when he was at ESPN.
No, I was thinking of Gollis.
Yeah.
But I don't know why that is. Maybe contraction. I don't know what would entail. You can be on Ryan Russillo, just mentioning him specifically. I don't know why they have that, but that's interesting and, good for, I guess, fans of both that you'll likely get to hear them because there's only going to be a couple of places he'll be, cleared to appear outside of probably your regular Sports Center stop-ins. But, yeah, that's an interesting, situation down there in Birmingham as well with Trent Dilfer at the helm of the Blazers. So, yeah, good luck to him. And, college football's unique, and that includes the contracts. That includes basically everything about every facet of college athletics, and that includes the deals that these guys are signing. But not that incentives are all that crazy or, exclusive to college by any means. But there's a couple things in there that are like, all right, that's a little, unique to that guy. But basically win, keep your players out of trouble, and if you can't keep them out of trouble, just make sure it's not too extreme. And that bottom line, even if it is, you just win anyways. Urban Meyer, and just win and don't get in trouble, and that's basically all you have to do, and you'll be A-okay in the end, most likely.
One of the things Dilfer said this week was he dared anybody to get into the DMs of his players. In other words, on Twitter or whatever other DMs there might be. I don't know about that means Facebook and Instagram, whatever, but he basically is daring anybody to get into the DMs of his players to try to take them away from his program. He said he is not worried about being blackballed by other schools, the Power 5 schools, because he likes where he is in Birmingham and he's not going anywhere. Now, again, yeah, if all of a sudden Ohio State call, which again, that's hypothetical, but he's saying that. We asked Jeff Traylor that same question because he knows players have been tampered with by other schools, and he basically has contacted them directly.
Yeah, he's not doing it publicly, though. And
Exactly.
I think that's something that every coach is probably a little bit wary of doing because, hey, if you're Jeff Traylor, are you going to be in San Antonio for the rest of your life? Probably not, right? You're going to sit there and talk bad about, let's say, Texas A&M or something, and then they, are opening up with a head coaching job in a couple of years, and you think, oh, that'd be great, but, oh, well, you're scratched off the list because you tried to rat on them to the NCAA a couple. Like, you do have to think about that, right, from his standpoint. But maybe a Trent Dilfer who's like, I'm probably never going to get offered the Ohio State job or the A&M job or whatever. And, hey, I make NFL money anyways. I'm just here to coach football and have fun. Maybe.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Maybe there's no, I can't hear it.
No, you talk. It just connected, yeah.
Now, so maybe there is something to that where he, isn't worried about getting the big job with the big chair one day and he can just coach football and actually back up his threat of like, yeah, I'm going to expose you. And I don't know, maybe he's not saying he'll expose people, but I like that he's trying to fight back as best he can. I mean, I know it's a touchy situation for coaches because they are looking at the bigger job down the line and maybe that impacts it if you talk. So weird rock in a hard place to be in for coaches, knowing that you want to keep your guys, but at the same time, there's just that element that it's never, not going to be some level of tampering no matter what the rules are.
And he better not be doing it himself.
Okay. 2024, they play at Arkansas. Now, I'm not calling this, but say Trent Dilfer goes 11-1 at UAB, and one of those wins is over Arkansas, and he's not worried about going anywhere else. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder if that tune will change.
Yeah. Here's Xavier Wolf, by the way. 365 Sports is good fun. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you very much. And then he said, what is the definition of a DM? Wrong answers only.
I think he'd probably be careful snooping around in his players' DMs too much. But, that's I guess that's across the board, right? Whatever way you can get message behind the scenes, then I'm sure they're on top of that, trying to make sure there's not some coach from another institution, Snapchatting or Instagram or Twitter or whatever the case may be. TikTok, I don't know if you do messages on TikTok. I have no idea. I think we've aged out of that in this room for the other than this side of the room, actually.
Yeah, on the desk we have.
We've aged. We're not in the TikTok bracket, but. Yeah. That's something that you got to be wary of. And, there are all those different ways to get a hold of people now. You don't have to find the phone number necessarily, or you don't have to do it one certain way. There's any number of ways, and Lord knows we've seen, without probably even realize it, every way known to man pull a player, one direction or another over these last couple of years.
By the way, that interview with Chris Pesman of Houston